All right, so President Trump is insisting on adding a citizenship question on the 2020 census, saying that he may even do so with an executive order. Printing of the census has already started without the citizenship question. The Supreme Court rejected the administration's stated reason as contrived, but government lawyers can still provide a different rationale. Here's the president's new justification.
Well, you need it for many reasons. Number one, you need it for Congress. You need it for Congress, for districting. You need it for appropriations. Where are the funds going? How many people are there? Are they citizens? Are they not citizens? You need it for many reasons.
Okay, but here's the thing about that. Congressional seats have always been based on a state's total population, not on the number of citizens. And joining me right now, somebody who knows about that, Congressman Marc Veasey, who's a Democrat from Texas and a member of the Congressional Voting Rights Caucus. Welcome, Congressman. So you heard the president's new narrative right there. What do you make of this new rationale for adding this citizenship question?
Well, I think that he just admitted in his own words that what they're trying to do is illegal. The Supreme Court had a decision on this a few years ago where they said all citizens must be counted. And now he's saying that maps need to be drawn based on people that are citizens. The court has already ruled on this, and not only that, as was mentioned earlier, they have also ruled that they cannot have this question on the census. It's clear what they're trying to do. If you look here in Dallas, for instance, there was notes that were turned over by this man's daughter after he died. I'm sorry that I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he said that if you were to add this question on the census, that you could actually eliminate close to 2 Latino state representative seats in Dallas County, and those are in areas that I represent. So it's clear that they're trying to use race in order to further the Republican Party's dominance of these districts, and that is illegal. Using race that way is absolutely illegal.
Yeah, it's a Republican strategist, I believe, who died back in 2015, and many of his notes were unearthed afterwards and showed
that is right.
The information that you're referring to. So that said, what could you guys do about this? Because the president says that he may declare an executive order to add this citizenship question on the census. Your colleague, Congresswoman Katie Hill, I saw her yesterday saying that it would spark a constitutional crisis. Would it?
Absolutely it would. The Supreme Court's already ruled on this. Trump may look up to strongman. He may look up to dictators. But the fact of the matter is that he's not one. We have a constitution, and the Supreme Court, which is a part of that the three-tiered system that we have, says that this question cannot be used. And so if he decides, well, I'm the king and I'm going to go ahead and do this, it would definitely spark a constitutional crisis. I think that a lot of what he's doing right now is that he knows that this question cannot be used. I think it was mentioned in your segment right before I came on that the questionnaires are already being printed up, and he's just trying to feed a lot of red meat to his base. I think that that's really what this is all about, because they have decided that they have to have this question on the census, but I don't think that it's going to happen, and I agree with my colleague from California that it would definitely spark a crisis.
Okay, well, let's talk about something else that's within the similar purview right now, and those conditions at the detention centers on the border. We've seen many of the pictures. They look horrible. You visited the detention centers in El Paso. Describe what it really was like right there in those rooms.
Well, first of all, let me tell you this. When you go on those tours, you have to give Customs 48 hours notice before you can take one, even as a member of Congress.
Okay, so they know you're coming.
They know you're coming, and that needs to change because, you know, a lot of what we saw, you know, were empty beds, empty cells, and what have you, especially the outdoor facilities. But we did see a couple of holding cells, a couple of detention holding cells, looked very similar to what you would see if you were to visit a county lockup in a large facility. We saw kids and these like toddler age kids or just barely older than toddler age kids in these detention lockup like facilities. We also saw one particular holding cell that had Cuban migrants in it, and it was very overcrowded. The women were crying. There was one grandmother who was very afraid because she was actually separated from her mentally impaired grandson and didn't know where he was. These women were crying. They told us that when they asked for water, that one of the guards told them to drink out of the toilet. And so these are their words to us. And if you look at the Facebook page that came out, and now there looks like there's a second Facebook page, and that it looks like these Facebook pages are at least a few years old, and you look at the content on there that's being used by current members of Customs, you have to tell yourself that what these migrants were telling us, a lot of it has to be true.
Yeah, you're referring to some Facebook groups and that featured, we believe, members of the Border Patrol who were talking about some of the conditions there and the treatment of many of these migrants. That said,
Right.
you spoke with many of these migrants. Did they have any idea what the conditions were? Why would they trek all these miles knowing that this would be the situation?
You take a country like Honduras, for instance. It's one of the most dangerous places in the entire world. There's no opportunity. And so, people are coming to America to seek asylum for themselves and their families, hoping for a better life and a better opportunity. And so that is why they're risking it. They say that where they live right now, that there's absolutely no hope, and that they actually fear for their actual life. It's that simple.
Do you have any confidence that this administration will do anything to help the conditions right there at those detention centers?
I don't believe so. I mean, they need to work with us to help, but I also think that that they have shown over and over again that they're willing to use migrants in order to fan their base up and get their base flamed and amped up, and that they simply see migrants as pawns in a political game. Which I think is absolutely sad. I don't understand how the president can even sleep at night. He absolutely has no conscience when it comes to the real-life crisis that is going on in the border and that these migrants are facing. It's sad, and it really goes against what happened in 1980 when we passed the Refugee Act to try and get with the rest of the international world on how you defined asylum. And how you define asylum seekers. And we're going against that spirit where the world came together in order to make sure that we never would come to a situation again where we see people that are seeking asylum, that are turned away from life-threatening conditions back in their own country.
All right, Congressman Marc Veasey of the 33rd District in Texas near Fort Worth, thank you for your time.
Thank you.